welcome to the Clashing of Steel. And today, once again, I'm playing with Arminius and his Tier 6 Barbarian Cavalry. I really like this cavalry. There were many who in the beginning hated it. There were a lot of comments that this was horrible, they couldn't withstand in a melee fight and so. But actually, they're really good, as they are not as resilient as many other cavalry in melee. They're quite decent at charge impact. It doesn't mean that they're able to defeat Alexander and Greek cavalry, especially on the charge impact side, but Arminius and these tier 6 barbarians with spears and their horses are quite decent against many foes. Well, charge impact is an interesting thing. From the front, your opponent may countercharge you. Your charge may be utterly useless and you may take more damage than you would put out. But when you charge from the rear, the damage gets amplified by a massive amount. Even if you charge on your opponent who is not countercharging you, the damage you actually do can often be quite decent, even with these horsemen here. Or even from the side. It doesn't matter. The best parts for impact damage are exposed sides. Flanks, rear, usually not the front, although impact-based cavalry is quite decent even from the front. So this is a very clear example from a charge from the rear. All 3 units took damage, they took quite massively of it, and that was not even a stacked charge. If it would have been stacked, I'm quite sure at least one of these units would have instantly routed. Maybe even instantly died. But from this simple example, we can see the charge impact rules. From the rear, it is dominating, overwhelming ability. From the front, not so much. Your opponent will still have control. But the damage they take, or may take, can often be of an incredible size. Wow, there are a lot of stakes here, and, well, these archers are trying to use it for their advantage as well. Well, they still are using it for their advantage. If they fight in the stakes with the horses, they might be able to kill quite a lot of them. As much as I would love to support them, I just don't want to charge into the stakes because they will just melt me away. These horsemen that I'm playing, they can be really good against archers, especially on the charge impact side. But when you leave them to fight, even with frenzy, it kind of feels like a standstill. Actually, these are one of the few horsemen which you can actually use to flank opposing infantry. It doesn't mean that they're really good at it, but it means they're at least somewhat viable. Perhaps this was my mistake back there. I used my horsemen and left them fight back there. I tried to use them to catch up to the opponents in ranged units, but that was my mistake. And now I'm seeing another opening on the opposing horsemen. And this already looks like, oh, I have a chance here. This is an excellent location, and that is not helping you. And my charge was a wee bit better, I think. I'm gonna lose a lot of troops here, but that's not the point. The point is sacrifice. I'm willing to delay these opponents, keep them fighting, and eventually they're gonna realize that they will have to either fight here or retreat. And my biggest hope for them is actually to retreat, because if they're retreating, I can get a lot of free damage on them. They kinda understood what I was aiming for and moved towards me, although they didn't have the charge. But that's not the point. The point is that he moved all 3 units at the same time, stacked in the same direction, which means I could pull out one of my units without taking that type of damage I was trying to inflict upon my opponent. One very important aspect about this game is knowing what your opponent is attacking. That can often mean you may retreat, it can often mean you can't move your unit, you must leave it fight, or otherwise you will sacrifice most of it. It is often very important to read these minor things correctly. As a simple example, this situation could have played out differently if he would have moved only 2 units. But instead, he moved all 3. And oh, I love the charge impact. Although I could have done it a lot better, I'm quite sure. I just went for the fast, quick damage and pulling back out right away. Simply because impact damage-based units are not the ones you want to sacrifice. They're the ones you want to use to hit the opponent from the rear, from the sides. Just apply some force. Apply some uncertainty to opponents. Make them think twice. As it was seen, I was able to defeat the opposing Arminius, who tried to sneak away. Perhaps thanks to my circling movement and their naive action of moving units stacked. Although that is not directly a wrong move, I wouldn't consider it a good one. Because moving units stacked, it does improve your charge impact. It does it. It makes it a lot more deadly, it makes your hits a lot deadlier, and often enough from the rear can insta-rout most opponents. But at the same time, if that charge should be a flop, if it should be countered, if you should get hit by a catapult or something, you're gonna lose 3 times as much. So that is a choice you must make yourself. It can pay off incredibly well, but then again, it can backfire like nothing else. And this here is another great example from the charge impact side, straight into the rear of my opponents. From the front, they would have been such a threat to me. If I would have charged, I would have lost equal, if not more troops than he would have. But just because he's willing to give me his back, I'm willing to use that. I'm willing to take the risk. But then again, if I see that the opponent is very active in multitasking, that might not be the case. Because we also need to evaluate what we're dealing with. If we're dealing with the opponent who is very active, tries to counter every movement, that already gives us an idea. If we try to poke him from one side or the other and he reacts to it, that means he's paying attention. And for perhaps even smarter players, it can mean they might bait us. Turn around in the last moment when we might charge. There are several ways to bait, of course, and several ways to downplay your skill. Making opponents feel like they're dealing with someone who is not exactly sure what he's playing, what his actions should be, and what are his possibilities against you. Oh, and we do have some archers back there, some infantry back here, and we do have a chance. Well, that's just lovely. Sadly, I wasn't those horsemen, I was dealing with the infantry. But it's always good to be here and try to make a little difference. And even here, sneaking through this, or by this small rock, thanks to the unformed movement, unformed formation. Well, sadly I couldn't make much of a difference because there are swordsmen, but I could make a little difference with my other horsemen ramming to the side, well, slash rear to these infantry. Why I actually don't die with that infantry is simple. They are not focusing on me, which is really surprising. They're focusing on the handlers, the war dogs, and they're not focusing on my unit. I have like 10 soldiers stuck in the middle there. And since they are not focusing me, I will be slightly focusing them. I can't go too close because otherwise they're just gonna see the health bar. I mean, this is why the space bar is great for. You're gonna see where all your troops are spread correctly. Your health bar or your main unit might be away, while half a unit might be engaged. It just highlights everything so perfectly. Well, at least we have dealt with all the other units. All the ranged units, and we have just infantry left. And since I have remnants, I'm gonna switch to stacked charge. Because I want that impact to be decent. I want that impact to make a change. But still, there is one big problem. Even if they are stacked, even if they do have double the effect, so to say, which is perfectly used here. And I forgot there are stakes. Whoops. I still got some value out of it, but it is very important how you position your charge. As you saw, half of my unit, or some of it at least, went into the stakes. It is hard to position like so, but well, it's not like I have many other options left. Sadly for this video, again, I seem to have lost my scoreboard. I don't know who keeps deleting them, who keeps taking them away from me. but, well, the match is bound to end soon, and I still have a little to do. I mean, Arminius is an excellent cavalry commander. Barbarians, infiltration, frenzy, they're just like meant to take down opposing ranged units. But it all changes with tier 6 and tier 9 Barbarian Horsemen, which are more focused on charge impact. And that impact can make a lot of difference, in many cases even against infantry. Probably one of my most favorite cavalry of all time, but, cavalry commander that is, but maybe not the units. I still prefer to have a shield so I could get some missile block, but for the way they are built, they definitely have an interesting and different playstyle than most other barbarian horsemen. They are highly mobile, and they kinda act on tier 6 and 9 like Greek horsemen. They are heavily charge impact based, and that makes them really interesting, really special in a way. So, this was it. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.